Don't ignore this psalm. There comes a moment in life when you realize you are tired, not just physically tired, but tired in a deeper place. Tired of explaining yourself. Tired of choosing the right words. Tired of being misunderstood, interrupted, judged, or politely ignored. If you are here right now, there's a chance you are tired of explaining yourself to everyone and still feeling unseen. Maybe you've noticed it happening slowly. At first, you try to explain what you were feeling. You try to be clear. You try to be calm. You try to be reasonable. But the more you explained, the less people seemed to listen. So you stopped, not because you had nothing to say, but because you were exhausted from saying it over and over again and never being truly heard. There is a specific kind of emotional fatigue that comes from realizing that even when you speak honestly, people only hear what they want to hear. This psalm was written for that moment. This is Psalm 142, a prayer spoken when there is no one left to listen, a silent prayer, a hidden prayer, a prayer whispered when the world feels crowded, yet you feel completely alone. When you are tired of explaining yourself, God does not ask you to clarify. He does not interrupt. He does not rush you. He listens. Right now, you don't need better words. You don't need stronger arguments. You don't need to defend your feelings or justify your pain. You just need a place where your voice is safe. Psalm 142 begins in isolation, not in victory, not in clarity, but in emotional exhaustion. It was spoken in a cave, hidden, confined, pressed on all sides. And maybe that feels familiar, because sometimes life feels like a cave too. Not loud, not dramatic, just heavy, silent, close in. You wake up already tired. You carry conversations in your head that never happened. You replay moments where you wish someone had understood you. You rehearse explanations you know you'll never give. And eventually, you choose silence. Not because you don't care, but because caring costs too much. This psalm understands that silence. If you've ever thought, why do I have to explain myself again? If you've ever felt drained by social expectations, family pressure, or the constant need to appear okay, this psalm is for you. This is a prayer for those who feel unheard, for those overwhelmed but quiet, for those whose pain is real, even if no one else sees it. Psalm 142 is not a loud declaration of faith. It is not a confident speech. It is not a polished prayer. It is raw. It is honest. It is what comes out when you no longer have the energy to impress anyone, including yourself. When you're tired of explaining yourself to everyone, God invites you to stop explaining and simply speak, or even better, to let the psalm speak for you. As we move forward, let your shoulders relax. You don't need to perform here. You don't need to agree with every word. You don't need to fix anything. Just listen. This is not a message telling you to be stronger. This is not a reminder to try harder. This is a space to breathe. In the next moment, we will gently enter the words of Psalm 142, slowly, with pauses, allowing the prayer to carry what you no longer want to explain. If you're tired of explaining yourself, stay here. Don't ignore this psalm. It was written for nights like this. There's a quiet grief that comes from realizing you are constantly misunderstood, not loudly rejected, not openly attacked, just missed. People hear your words, But they don't hear you. They respond too quickly. They offer solutions when you needed presence. They minimize what you tried so hard to explain. And after a while, you stop correcting them. You let them believe whatever version is easiest for them. That's when the exhaustion begins. Because being misunderstood once hurts, but being misunderstood repeatedly teaches your heart to retreat. You start measuring every sentence before speaking. You ask yourself, is this worth the effort? Will they actually listen this time? Do I really have the energy to explain myself again? Most of the time, the answer is no, so you choose silence. Not the peaceful kind, the tired kind, the kind where you nod instead of correcting, smile instead of clarifying, agree just to avoid another conversation that goes nowhere. This is what it means to be tired of explaining yourself to everyone. And the world doesn't always notice this kind of tiredness because you still show up, you still respond, you still function, but inside, something has gone quiet. Psalm 142 was born in that quiet place. It is the prayer of someone who has reached the end of explanations, someone who realizes that no human ear is truly listening anymore. David doesn't gather an audience. He doesn't seek validation. He doesn't organize his thoughts to sound reasonable. He pours out his complaint to God. That word matters. Complaint, not gratitude, not praise, not confidence, just honesty. There is something deeply human about that, because sometimes faith is not saying the right thing. It's saying the real thing. And the real thing for many people today is this: I'm tired. I'm overwhelmed. I feel alone. I don't want to explain anymore. Modern life demands constant explanation. Explain your choices. Explain your boundaries. Explain your emotions. Explain why you're not okay. Explain why you're tired, even though nothing is wrong. Explain why you need space. Explain why you're quiet. Explain why you changed. And after a while, you feel like your life has become a defense. Psalm 142 cuts through that. It reminds us that God is not waiting for a well-structured argument. He is listening for truth. If you feel overwhelmed, unheard, or emotionally exhausted, this psalm meets you there, not with answers, but with permission. Permission to stop explaining. Permission to stop performing strength. Permission to speak without being corrected. When David says, I pour out my complaint before him, he is saying, I stop filtering my pain. That's something many of us have forgotten how to do. We filter our emotions to be acceptable, to be polite, to be understandable. But God doesn't need your pain to be neat. He doesn't need it summarized. He doesn't need it justified. He hears what others miss, even the things you can't put into words anymore, especially those things. When you are tired of explaining yourself, God does not step back. He steps closer. He doesn't ask, can you clarify? He asks, will you trust me with what you haven't said out loud? This is why Psalm 142 matters so much for modern life, because it speaks to people who are socially surrounded, but emotionally isolated. People who are strong for others, but fragile in private. People who have learned that silence is sometimes safer than honesty. If that's you, you're not weak. You're warned. And being warned does not disqualify you from being heard by God. In the next block, we will slow down even more and begin reading the words of Psalm 142 themselves, not rushed, not analyzed, but received. Until then, take a breath. You don't need to explain anything here. Just stay. Now, we slow down. There is no rush here. No pressure to understand everything at once. No need to analyze or interpret. Let the words carry you. If you can, soften your breathing. Unclench your jaw. Let your shoulders drop just a little. This is Psalm 142, a prayer for when you are tired of explaining yourself. A prayer spoken when no one else is listening. A prayer whispered in isolation. Listen, I cry aloud to the Lord. I lift up my voice to the Lord for mercy. Pause. This is not a silent thought. This is not a polite request. This is a voice that finally stops holding back. When you've been quiet for too long, sometimes the first sound that comes out is not beautiful. It's necessary. I pour out before him my complaint. Before him I tell my trouble. Notice the honesty, not filtered, not corrected, not softened for comfort. Just poured out like someone who no longer has the energy to make their pain understandable to others. When my spirit grows faint within me, it is you who watch over my way. Let that line breathe. When your spirit grows faint, not when you're strong, not when you're confident, not when you have answers. When you are overwhelmed, when you are tired, when explaining yourself feels impossible, that's when God is watching over you in the path where I walk. People have hidden a snare for me. There's awareness here, a sense of danger, a sense of being exposed. Sometimes the exhaustion doesn't come from one big event. It comes from constantly watching your step, measuring your words, protecting yourself emotionally. Look and see, there is no one at my right hand. No one is concerned for me. Sit with that. No one. Not someone misunderstood me. Not they tried but failed. Just no one. This is the moment when explaining yourself feels pointless, because there's no one left to explain it to. I have no refuge. No one cares for my life. This is not self-pity. This is reality spoken out loud. And God does not correct him. God does not interrupt. God does not say, "That's not true." He listens. I cry to you, Lord. I say, you are my refuge, my portion in the land of the living. Something shifts here, not the circumstances, not the pain, the direction of the voice. When no one else is listening, the prayer turns upward, not with confidence, with need. Listen to my cry, for I am in desperate need. This is the heart of Psalm 142, a simple request, no explanation attached, no justification required, just need. Rescue me from those who pursue me, for they are too strong for me. This is a quiet confession. I can't handle this alone. Modern life rarely allows space for that sentence, but this psalm speaks it anyway. Set me free from my prison, that I may praise your name. The prison here is not just physical. It's emotional, mental, social. The prison of being unheard. The prison of constant explanation. The prison of silence chosen out of exhaustion. Then the righteous will gather about me because of your goodness to me. Not because he explained himself better. Not because he defended his pain, but because God acted. Stay with the words for a moment. This psalm does not rush to hope. It walks through honesty first. If you felt something stir while listening, that's okay. You don't need to name it. You don't need to explain it. In the next block, we will gently begin connecting this psalm to the weight of modern life, to anxiety, social exhaustion, emotional overload, and the quiet decision to stop explaining yourself to everyone. For now, just breathe. You were heard even before you found the words. Psalm 142 was written centuries ago, but it sounds painfully modern because the exhaustion it describes is not foreign to our lives. Today, we are surrounded by people and still feel alone. We communicate constantly and still feel unheard. We explain ourselves endlessly and still feel misunderstood. Modern life has created a strange pressure, the pressure to be emotionally accessible at all times, to explain your feelings clearly, to justify your boundaries politely, to respond quickly, to clarify misunderstandings immediately. And if you don't, you're seen as distant, cold, difficult. So you try. You explain why you're tired, why you need space, why something hurt you, why you changed. But the more you explain, the more drained you become. This is why Psalm 142 speaks so deeply to those who are tired of explaining themselves to everyone, because it reminds us that God never demanded emotional performance. He never asked you to translate your pain into something others would accept. When David says, "When my spirit grows faint within me," he is describing emotional burnout, that quiet collapse inside. That doesn't look dramatic, but feels heavy every day. Many people listening right now are not in crisis. They are in accumulation, accumulated stress, accumulated misunderstandings, accumulated silence. You've carried things too long, without a safe place to put them down. Psalm 142 becomes that place. In a world where everyone expects an explanation, God offers presence. In a culture obsessed with clarity, God allows confusion. In a society that rewards strength, God listens to weakness. This psalm shows us something essential. You don't need to be understood by everyone to be fully known by God. When you are tired of explaining yourself, it's often because you've been explaining to the wrong audience. Human understanding is limited. Human attention is fragile. Human empathy has boundaries. But God's attention does not fade when your voice gets quiet. He hears what you stop saying. He understands what you no longer explain. This has practical meaning for daily life. It means you don't need to rehearse conversations in your head that you'll never have. It means you don't need to convince people of the legitimacy of your pain. It means silence does not mean abandonment. Sometimes silence is protection. Psalm 142 teaches us that retreating to God is not giving up. It's choosing a safer place to speak. When David says, "You are my refuge," he is not escaping reality. He is choosing where his pain is processed. That choice matters, because where you take your pain shapes how it transforms you. If you only take it to people who minimize it, you will shrink. If you only take it to your own thoughts, it will spiral. But when you take it to God, it breathes. This psalm also reminds us that being tired does not mean being faithless. It means you are human. It means your soul is asking for rest, not explanations. So if you feel anxious, overwhelmed, or emotionally depleted right now, this is not a failure. It is a signal to stop explaining and start resting, a signal to stop defending your pain and start releasing it. Psalm 142 does not fix everything instantly, but it reorders something quietly inside. It shifts the burden from your voice to God's listening. In the next block, we will return to the psalm again, not to read it fully, but to allow certain lines to repeat gently, creating an emotional loop that brings calm, grounding, and retention. For now, notice this: you are not required to explain your exhaustion. You are allowed to be heard without words. Now we return not to explain, not to analyze, but to rest. Some words are not meant to be understood once. They are meant to be returned to, like a breath, like a quiet room, like a thought that calms you simply by being there. Psalm 142 becomes that place. If your mind is tired, let the repetition carry you. You don't need to follow every sentence. You don't need to hold on tightly. Just listen. When my spirit grows faint within me, you know my way. Let that repeat inside you. When my spirit grows faint, you know my way. Not when I am strong. Not when I explain myself well. Not when I make sense of others. When my spirit grows faint, God knows your way. Even when you don't know how to describe it anymore. I pour out my complaint before him. Not once, not perfectly, not eloquently. I pour it out. You don't carry it neatly. You release it honestly. Again, I pour out my complaint before him. There is something freeing about not having to translate your pain. No subtitles, no footnotes, no defense, just truth as it is. Look and see, there is no one at my right hand. This line feels heavy, so we hold it gently. No one, and yet you are not abandoned, because even when no one else is there, God remains. Again, even when no one else is there, God remains. You are my refuge, not the place where everything is fixed, but the place where everything is safe. Refuge is where you stop running, where you stop explaining, where you stop bracing yourself. Say it quietly inside. You are my refuge. If you are tired of explaining yourself to everyone, this repetition is for you. You don't need new information. You need stillness. So we repeat softly. When my spirit grows faint within me, you know my way. I pour out my complaint before you. You are my refuge. Let the words slow your breathing. Inhale, exhale. There is no expectation here. No outcome to reach. No emotional performance required. Just presence. This is why repetition matters. Because tired minds don't need stimulation. They need reassurance. And reassurance does not shout. It whispers. Again, you are my refuge. If thoughts try to interrupt, don't fight them. Let them pass through the psalm. Let them sit inside the prayer, instead of inside your chest. You don't need to resolve anything tonight. You don't need to make decisions. You don't need to prepare explanations. This is a pause, a holy pause, a moment where the weight lifts, not because life changed, but because you stopped carrying it alone. In the next block, we will gently transition to stillness, into a closing rhythm, bringing comfort, reassurance, and a soft invitation to respond without pressure. For now, stay with the repetition. When my spirit grows faint within me, you know my way. You are not required to explain yourself here. You are allowed to rest as we begin to close. Nothing needs to be rushed. There is no dramatic ending here, no sudden shift in tone, just a gentle return to the quiet place you entered. If this psalm found you when you were tired of explaining yourself, that was not an accident. Sometimes the soul searches before the mind understands why. Psalm 142 does not promise that people will suddenly listen better. It does not guarantee that you will be understood tomorrow. What it offers is something deeper, a place where your voice does not have to fight to be heard, a refuge where silence is not loneliness. If you've been carrying the weight of unspoken feelings, unanswered questions, and misunderstood intentions, you don't have to carry them alone tonight. God heard you before you pressed play. He listened before you found the words. If you feel tired, that does not mean you are weak. It means you've been strong for too long, without rest. And rest is not quitting. Rest is trust. Trust that you don't need to explain yourself to everyone in order to be known. Trust that being quiet does not make you invisible to God. As you move forward into your night, into your day, into whatever comes next, carry this with you. You are allowed to stop explaining. You are allowed to be still. You are allowed to be heard without defending your pain. If this prayer resonated with you, you're not alone. There are many people who arrive here for the same reason: exhausted, unheard, overwhelmed. If you feel comfortable, you can write a single word in the comments, not an explanation, not a story, just a word. Tired, quiet, here, heard. Let it be a silent way of saying, this psalm met me where I am. And if you'd like to stay, more prayers like this are waiting for you. Prayers for anxiety, for exhaustion, for nights when your thoughts won't slow down. You don't have to rush away. You don't have to explain anything. Just know this: when your spirit grows faint, God knows your way. And here, you are safe. Before you move on, let's stay a little longer. There is no need to leave the space too quickly. Sometimes comfort works best when it is repeated, not loudly, not urgently, but gently, like a familiar presence that doesn't demand anything from you. If you're still here, it's likely because something inside you needed this pause. So we return again, not to new ideas, but to familiar truth. You are not alone in feeling tired of explaining yourself to everyone. There are seasons when words feel heavy, when conversations feel draining, when silence feels safe in honesty. God understands those seasons. He does not confuse your quietness with distance. He does not mistake your exhaustion for lack of faith. He knows the difference between someone who has nothing to say and someone who is simply worn down. Psalm 142 reminds us that even silence can be prayer. Even stillness can be communication. Even the things you never say out loud are known. Take a slow breath again. Inhale, exhale. You don't need to hold yourself together here. If your mind drifts, That's okay. Let it drift inside this calm. Let it drift without judgment. The world constantly asks you to explain your choices, your feelings, your pace, your boundaries. But God does not interrogate your soul. He welcomes it. When your spirit grows faint within you, He knows your way. Even now, even here, you may not feel better yet, and that's okay. Healing is often quiet. Restoration is often subtle. Sometimes the first sign of peace is simply the absence of pressure. No pressure to speak, no pressure to fix, no pressure to understand everything, just being. Psalm 142 doesn't rush toward joy. It sits with honesty first. And honesty is where real comfort begins. So if tonight feels heavy, if you still feel tired, if the silence feels thick, you haven't failed. You've arrived at a place where explanation is no longer required. Arrived at a refuge that doesn't ask you to perform. Arrived at a moment where being quiet is enough. We'll remain here a little longer. Let the calm settle deeper. Let your breathing slow. Let the weight loosen, even if just slightly. In the next block, we'll continue this gentle rhythm, not by changing direction, but by reinforcing safety, belonging, and quiet reassurance. For now, stay. You don't need to explain yourself here. If you're still listening, it means something inside you has not felt rushed here. That matters. In a world that constantly pulls you forward, staying is an act of trust. So we stay, not to search for answers, but to remain in safety. There's a kind of tiredness. That doesn't come from doing too much. It comes from carrying too much alone, from holding emotions in, because explaining them feels exhausting, from knowing that even if you spoke, the words would fall short. Psalm 142 understands that weight. It doesn't ask you to speak louder. It doesn't ask you to clarify. It simply makes room. And sometimes what the soul needs most is not resolution, but permission to rest without explanation. If you felt pressure to be understood, pressure to justify yourself, pressure to make your pain reasonable to others, you can let that pressure go here. You don't need to translate your feelings into something acceptable. You don't need to compress your pain into a sentence that makes sense. God is not confused by complexity. He is not threatened by silence. He is present in it. Take another breath. Slowly, you might notice that the tension in your body has been quietly holding on. Your shoulders, your chest, your hands. Let them soften, even just a little. Rest does not have to be dramatic. Sometimes rest is subtle. Sometimes rest is simply the absence of demand. No one is waiting for you to respond. No one is waiting for you to explain. This moment is not asking anything from you. Psalm 142 was spoken in a place where there were no expectations, no audience, no judgment, no interruption, just honesty and a God who listens. That same listening is here now. Even if your thoughts are scattered, even if you feel numb, even if you don't know what you're feeling at all, being unsure does not disqualify you from being heard. If you feel emotionally exhausted, it doesn't mean something is wrong with you. It means you've been carrying more than you were meant to carry alone. And here, you can set it down, not forever, not all at once, just for now, just enough to breathe. Let the silence be kind to you. Let it be a place where nothing needs to be solved. In the next block, we will gently guide the stillness toward reassurance and quiet hope, not loud hope, not forced optimism, but the kind of hope that feels like relief. For now, stay exactly as you are. You are not late. You are not behind. You are simply here, and that is enough. As we remain in this quiet, something begins to shift, not loudly, not suddenly, but gently. Hope does not always arrive as confidence. Sometimes it arrives as relief, the relief of not having to explain yourself, the relief of being held without being questioned. Psalm 142 carries this kind of hope, not the kind that erases pain, but the kind that makes pain less lonely. When David says, "You are my refuge," he is not declaring victory. He is declaring safety. And safety is often the first step toward healing. If you are tired of explaining yourself to everyone, it may be because your soul has been longing for safety, not solutions. Safety to feel what you feel without being corrected. Safety to rest without being judged. Safety to be quiet without being misunderstood. God offers that safety, not as an escape from life, but as a place to return to yourself. In modern life, we often confuse being understood with being valued, but Psalm 142 gently untangles that. You are valued, even when no one understands you. You are known, even when words fail. You are heard, even when your voice is tired. This kind of hope does not push you forward. It steadies you. It reminds you that you don't need to prove the depth of your pain. You don't need to persuade anyone that your exhaustion is real. God already knows, and that knowing changes something. Maybe not everything, maybe not immediately, but it changes how alone you feel while carrying it. If your life feels heavy right now, you don't need a dramatic breakthrough. You need gentleness. Psalm 142 offers that. It creates space for your nervous system to settle, for your thoughts to slow, for your breath to deepen. That is not small. That is sacred. Hope in this moment is not about tomorrow. It's about now, about knowing that this moment, this quiet, this stillness, this pause is held. You are not suspended in uncertainty alone. You are not lost in silence. You are being listened to, and being listened to is sometimes all the soul needs to keep going. In the next block, we will begin moving toward a final gentle closure, not by leaving the space, but by learning how to carry it with you. For now, let this quiet hope remain. You don't need to explain it. You don't need to define it. Just let it be. As this moment slowly settles inside you, nothing needs to be left behind. This quiet does not end. When the video ends, it is something you can carry, not as words to remember, but as a feeling to return to. Psalm 142 is not meant to stay on the page. It is meant to live in the spaces where you grow tired of explaining yourself, in conversations you choose not to have, in moments you decide to stay silent, in the pause before you respond, or choose not to respond at all. That pause can be sacred. Silence does not mean avoidance. Sometimes it means wisdom. Sometimes it means protection. Sometimes it means you trust God more than the need to be understood. You are allowed to choose peace over explanation. This psalm gives you that permission. It reminds you that your worth is not measured by how clearly others understand you. It is anchored in how deeply you are known by God. When life pulls you back into noise, notifications, expectations, conversations, you can return to this truth quietly. You don't need to announce it. You don't need to justify it. Just remember, when your spirit grows faint, God knows your way. That line can follow you into crowded rooms and quiet nights alike. It can be a boundary without being a wall, a refuge without being an escape. You may still feel tired tomorrow. You may still feel misunderstood. This psalm does not promise that those feelings disappear. What it offers is steadiness, a place to stand. When you feel like you're constantly explaining yourself just to be tolerated, you don't have to exhaust yourself. Try and be understood. You can rest in being known. If you carry one thing forward from this time, let it be this: you don't owe everyone access to your inner world. You are allowed to keep some things between you and God. That is not secrecy. That is intimacy. And intimacy is where healing often begins. In the next block, we will gently close the loop, bringing reassurance, belonging, and a final sense of safety before release. For now, stay with this integration. Let it become part of you. Quietly, as we come to the final moments together, there is nothing you need to hold on to tightly, nothing to remember perfectly, nothing to carry as a task, just a quiet assurance that you are not overlooked here. If you arrive feeling tired of explaining yourself to everyone, you don't need to leave feeling different. You can leave feeling held. Psalm 142 does not change who you are. It changes where you rest. It shifts the weight from your voice to God's listening. That matters more than we often realize, because so much exhaustion comes not from pain itself, but from carrying pain alone. Here, you didn't have to convince anyone. You didn't have to make sense. You didn't have to be clear. You were allowed to simply exist in God's presence. That is enough. If silence has been your shield lately, know this: God is not offended by your quiet. If distance has been your way of surviving, know this: God is not distant from you. If words have failed you, know this: God understands what you never said. You don't need to explain your exhaustion. You don't need to defend your boundaries. You don't need to apologize for needing rest. There will be moments after this when the world pulls you back into noise. Expectations will return. Conversations will resume. Questions may come. When they do, you can remember this place, not as a memory, but as a refuge, a reminder that you are known, even when you are misunderstood, that you are valued, even when you are quiet, that you are heard, even when your voice is tired. If you feel ready, take one last slow breath. Inhale, exhale. Nothing is demanded of you now. You are free to go gently, free to carry less, free to explain less, free to rest more deeply in the truth that God knows your way. When your spirit grows faint, thank you for staying. Thank you for trusting this quiet. And remember, you don't need to explain yourself here. You never did. Before this space fully releases you, we return once more, not to begin again, but to remain. Some endings are not meant to feel like endings. They are meant to feel like a place you can come back to if you feel the urge to stay a little longer. That's okay. Rest does not always come in a single moment. Sometimes it comes in layers, quiet layers. Psalm 142 remains open, not as a chapter you finished, but as a refuge you can revisit whenever words feel heavy again, whenever you feel the pressure to explain yourself, to clarify your feelings, to justify your silence. You can return here, not physically, internally, to that simple truth. When my spirit grows faint within me, you know my way. That line does not expire. It does not depend on your mood. It does not weaken with repetition. It stays, just like God's attention stays, even when your energy fades. If you're listening late at night, when the world is quiet, but your thoughts are loud, this psalm is still listening with you. If you're listening early in the morning, already tired before the day begins, this psalm is still holding space for you. Time does not limit prayer, and exhaustion does not limit God. You may not feel ready to speak again yet. You may not feel ready to explain anything. That's okay. Silence is not emptiness here. It is presence. You are not falling behind. You are not failing spiritually. You are not broken for needing rest. You are human, and God meets humans where they are, not where they pretend to be. If you find yourself looping back to this prayer later, that doesn't mean you didn't get it the first time. It means your soul recognized a safe place, and safe places are worth returning to. So if the next video begins, if the prayer repeats, if the quiet continues, you're welcome to stay. There is no rush to move on, no pressure to change, no requirement to explain. Just this: when you are tired of explaining yourself to everyone, God still listens. When your spirit grows faint, He knows your way. And here, you are allowed to rest in that truth as long as you need. Stay if you wish. The refuge remains.